Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, Maseches SOTAH Daf Mem Vav. We are holding at the Mishnah, which is towards the bottom of Mem Hayom Beis. So back to Egla Arufa, they discovered a fellow slain, killer unknown. The members of the Sanhedrin Agadol of Yerushalayim come down, inspect the scene, and measure to the closest city, which now needs to bring an Egla Arufa young calf. Says the Mishnah, Niftaru Ziknei Yerushalayim, V'ochelahen. After the Ziknei Yerushalayim came and measured, they did their job, they turn around and they leave. And who takes over? Ziknei Oisa Ha'ir. So the members of the local Sanhedrin of the closest city to the Cholol, they go ahead and they are Mevi'in Eglas Bakar. They bring the members of their city, contribute of course to this Eglas Bakar, which they purchase for this purpose. Mevi'in Eglas Bakar. They bring a young calf. According to Rashi, it's within the first year of its life, a real young calf. Ashalei Moshcha Ba'il, which has never been involved in any work, has never pulled any loads, any oil, any yoke. However, says the Mishnah, Ve'ein Hamum Paisal Ba. But don't think that a blemish invalidates this Egla Arufa. It's not treated like a regular korban. It doesn't have to be tamim, complete without any blemishes. So no work, yeah. But mum is okay. Then they bring her down to this ravine. According to the Rambam, it has water flowing through it. According to others, Nachal is just a term to describe a little valley, a little ravine. What does Eison mean? Says the Mishnah, Eison kima shmoi. Eison means literally the way it sounds. Eison is kosher. Tough, difficult, hard piece of land. Ava b'she'ena Eison kosher. So it's just a mitzvah, but even if it doesn't have that quality, it's still kosher. V'oifen oisa b'kaifetz mecharel. They take a large knife and they chop off its head from the back. Umakoima. Now the place where they do this arifas ha'egla, osur milizroya umlavoid, that piece of land is now not to be worked with, not to be planted. Umutar lisrek sham pishkin. However, you can still comb your flax over there, ulanakar shamavanim, or to chip around your stones, because that's not considered work done with the actual land. It's just on top of the karka. It's not the actual work of the karka itself, such as planting, etc. And therefore, these activities are mutar on that location. So they're done measuring. They're done doing the arifas ha'egla. What now? Ziknei oisa'ir. So the local Sanhedrin members, they wash their hands with water, where they did the arifa, and they declare, as per the psukim in the Torah, our hands did not spill this blood, we did not see what happened. Question is, why would you implicate the Sanhedrin with this murder? Also, do we really think Sheziknei Bezdin Shoifchei Domim Heim, that the members of the Sanhedrin are killing people? Why do they need to absolve themselves? Ella, rather, what they mean is, we don't even carry indirect responsibility for what happened. Ella Shaleiba al Yodenu Upartrinu. It's not like he came to us and we just sent him without food or drink and sent him off in a desperate situation which necessitated, which prompted him to go attack somebody just for food and resulted in his death. No, we were unaware of his plight. It's not like we sent him off without food. Of course, had we have seen him, we would have made sure that he was fully equipped for the road trip ahead. So that's the first thing. Yodeinu Shafcha means we weren't directly involved. We didn't ignore his plight in terms of equipping him with food. The second part, Ve'inenu lo means it's not like we saw him and we let him go without escort. Lavoya is very important. It gives protection, spiritual protection, emotional protection to a person who's traveling. It's not like we did that to him. We didn't send him off without protection, without levaya. Bottom line, sorry, we weren't really aware of this. And Farshim bring that if, in fact, Bezdin was aware, before he left town, that he's leaving without food, etc., then they shouldn't. They're not allowed to say this pasuk. Okay, so when they're saying that, the Kehanim respond by saying, "Kehanim oimrim kaper la'amcha Yisrael asher Hashem." This is the next pasuk there. Hashem, please be mechaper to your la'amcha Yisrael. Val titein dam naki b'kerev amcha Yisrael. Don't hold your nation responsible for this murder. And the pasuk concludes with the words, "V'ni kaper lohem hadam." Says the Mishnah, these aren't the words that the Kohanim will say. It's not like they're saying it. What then? The point of these words is that Hashem is being mevaser through Moshe Rabbeinu. Is relaying through Moshe Rabbeinu in the Torah that what? Whenever you execute this process, as we mentioned, the Egla Rufa, etc., Hadam is kapar lahem. This provides kapara and protection on account of this murder. So these words, V'ni kaper lahem Adam, is really a response from Hashem. Job well done. We find several other places in the Torah that the pasuk is sort of quoting the Ruach HaKodesh and Hashem. We find it by Yosef HaTzadik, right? The brothers saw him and they said, "Oh, look who's coming!" And the pasuk concludes, "V'nire ma yuchal lemoisav." And Rashi brings it's Ruach HaKodesh saying, "Look, let's see what is going to happen with his dreams, which are actually going to come true." We find it elsewhere in the beginning of Parsha Shemais, Kasher Yanu Oisei, right? As much as the Egyptians hurt Klal Yisrael, the pasuk continues, "Ken yirba v'chen yifreitz." Not to worry. It's going to result in a reverse, just the opposite. Klal Yisrael is going to grow and prosper. So here as well, the words of V'ni kaper lahem Adam is a message from heaven. So what did the Mishnah tell us? That an Egla Rufa needs to be young, right? And should not have been involved in any work. But mum, that's not an issue. Now we find a similar thing by the Para Aduma. Pasuk says, Asher loy ola aleha oil. A Para Aduma must be one which never experienced a yoke. But the pasuk adds, Asher ein bamum. A Para Aduma, in order to be fit for the Para Aduma process, needs to be free of any blemishes. Asks the Gemara, why don't we apply that stipulation to Egla Rufa as well? Let's say that a mum invalidates the Egla Rufa. Why? Mikal v'chomer. By way of a kal v'chomer from Para Aduma. Uma para she'ein hashanim poisel l'sba. If we find that para, despite the fact that it doesn't really have an age factor. Someone it turns into a para, 2 or 3 years old, depending on the shitais in Mesechas Para. That's it. It can be 5 years old, 20 years old, 100. There's no deadline. There's no age factor there. So shanim, years, are not a factor to be paisel the para. So despite the fact that it has that advantage, still, when it comes to a mum paisel ba, if it has a mum, it's disqualified. Certainly the egla, our calf, shishanim paisel ba, where there is an age factor, past a year, it's puzzle. Wouldn't you think that certainly a mum would have a similar effect? Einoi din, doesn't it lend to reason? She a mum paisel ba, that even a mum should do the same thing. Says the Gemara, no, Shani Hasam, the Makro, the Pasuk by Para says, Asherim Bahmum. Bah is extra. And we learn Bah. Only by the Para do we say Mum Paisel Mum affects her. Ve'ein mum paisel be'egla, but not by the egla. Asks the Gemara. Okay, so you're working with the word ba. I have a kasha. By the egla, it says it needs to be eglas bakar. Asher lo yu'ubad ba. No work was done with her. We have the word ba. Perhaps that should exclude para aduma. And we should say that, okay, a para aduma which had an oil, a yoke placed on it, the pasuk says, Asher lo yu'ala aleha oil, of course it makes it possible. But what about other forms of work? That's not mentioned by para aduma, only by egla. And it says ba, by egla, only here does it have an effect, but not by para. If that's the case, lo yu shar avodos. Other forms of work should not be paisleis b'para. And if not so, why did Rabbi Yehuda tell us in the name of Rab that avodah does make a paradum apostle? Uda shall sacken. Uda is a bundle of sacks, of bags. Basically, put a small load on a para aduma, pisula, it makes it possible. There you go. Work invalidates the para aduma. And he adds one more thing, which we're going to discuss mainly later. Ube egla timshech, when it comes to the egla roof over there, simply placement doesn't make it a puzzle. You have to actually pull something with the animal, it has to actually do active work, because the pasuk says actually mashchaboy, it has to pull something. Okay, in any case, we do see that work has an effect on a para. Why? It says ba by the egla. Only here does work affect it, not by para. Shani para. The answer is para is different. The alfinan oil me egla. We have a shava to connect the two. It says the word oil by para. It says the word oil by egla rufa, which Rashi says is an extra word. Because it already says no work can be done, why does it have to say oil? It's an extra word that makes it mufna, an available gzera shava, which allows for a proper connection to para without ability to challenge the gzera shava. Right? We know gzera shava mufna cannot be challenged. So that's the source. That avoida is paisel by para as well. Asks the Gemara, okay, so then you have a gzera shava. Let's make it a two-way connection. Egla nami teisi oil mit para. Just like you learn para from egla regarding avoida, let's go the other way. Let's learn egla from para regarding mum. Just like it passes the para, it should be paisel the egla. Hamiyat rachmana ba. Well, for that we have the pasuk. The word ba by para, to say only by para does a mum paisel, but not by egla. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Egla nami ksib ba. Sort of going back and forth. We have the word ba by egla as well. Work is only a factor by egla, not by para. Well, says the Gemara, that word ba is coming for another purpose, not coming to exclude para from the psul of avodah. Rather, how we buy the lemutei kachin, the le paslu ba avodah. The word ba is coming to might other karbanos, not paraduma, other karbanos, to say that if any work was done with those animals, they're still suitable to bring as a karban. So we exclude other karbanos rather than excluding para, because we have that gzera shava, so we prefer applying the miyut of ba to other karbanos. Why do I need to might other karbanos from the psul of avodah? I would think because just as egla is affected by work, other karbanos as well by way of a kal v'chomer, and that's why we need ba to say no. What would be the kal v'chomer? Uma egla she'en mum paisel ba. If even the egla rufa, which doesn't have a mum factor, as we've just proven before, it's only by para, not by egla, so it has that kula avodah paisel ba, still work is paisel the egla. Certainly the kachim, a regular carbon, shemum paisel es behen, where mum is certainly a big factor. Einu din shavodah paisel es behen, of course, avodah should do the same. That's what I would think, and that's why we need a pasuk ba. Avoida is only a paisel by egla arufa, not by other karbonis. Says the Gemara, 1 second, why would I even think? Ika lemifrach, you can easily refute this way of thinking. This notion that if avoida is paisel by egla, it certainly will be paisel by other karbonis. And that's not so simple. Why? Maila egla sheken shanim paislis ba. I would say, of course, egla is affected by work, because it's affected by age as well. Past a year is possible, as opposed to other karbonis, which don't have that factor. So, I would understand that perhaps other karbonis don't have an avoida factor as well. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Atu kachim? Do you mean to say that by kachim mileka de pasli bu'ushanim, can't we find some karbonis? Rashi says like Pesach and Chatas, which do have an age factor. Once they reach their first birthday, they're pasul. Ki it's trakra. So, yeah, we do need the pasuk of ba lahanach kachim de paslu bu'ushanim to address those karbonis which do have an age factor, which would generate this kal v'chomer. Right? Again, the kal v'chomer is if egla rufa, which does not have a mum consideration, has an avoida factor. Certainly, other karbonis which have a mum issue, of course, they have an avoida issue. And in terms of the age factor, these karbonis are on the same page as egla rufa. They all have an age factor, so perhaps I would say avoida is placed to other karbonis, and that's why we need a pasuk ba to limit it to egla. Asks the Gemara, really? You learn it from ba? The kachim delay pasla bu avoida machan nafka. This halacha that avoida does not affect another carbon is learned from the word ba by egla. Mehasam nafka. We have another source. Averes, or shavar, or charetz, or yabelas, or gara, or lefes, all these mum conditions, broken bone, blind, eye conditions, gara, lefes, skin condition, you can't bring them as a carbon. Lo yisakrivu eile lashem. Eila teaches us eile atamakriv. Only a bal mum cannot be brought as a carbon. Aval atamakriv kachim shenevda ben avoida. You can bring an animal for a carbon, even if that animal was used for work. So we learn it from this pasuk, not from ba. Itzrich, both psukim are needed. Sagdai tachamina. Perhaps I would say, Hanamili. When do we say that avoida does not detract from the carbon? Perhaps that's only when the work that he did was permissible work. Then we say it doesn't affect the carbon. Aval avodas iser emolitzuru. Well, let's say they did something which was an avera. Rashi says, for instance, they used the animal to work on Shabbos, or kilayim, or they did an iser with it. Emolitzuru, perhaps the animal would be disqualified for carbon. Tzricha, that's why we need the extra pasuk ba to address this case as well. Asks the Gemara, but that too is known from elsewhere. V'hanami me'achanafka. We have another pasuk for that. Right, the pasuk speaking about bringing bali mumen. You can't bring animals with a blemish. Umiyad benecher lesakrivu es lechem lekechem mikol eile. What does eile mean? Eile yatamakrav. You can't bring a behemoth with a mum. Aval tamakrav kachem shnedu en avoida. But you can bring a carbon which was used for work. Right. So once you have two psukim telling us the same thing, why do you need two psukim? Apparently one is for ordinary work and one is for isser work. And still the animal is safe. It's okay for carbon. So why do we need ba? Itzrich, it is necessary. Perhaps I would say, when do we say avoida is not paisal by karbonas echad avad ben kshen chul? And that's when he worked them when they were still in their peak pre-kachim state, before he was magdish the carbon. So at that point, if you use the animal, it's okay for carbon. Aval avad ben kishen kachim. Well, let's say he was already magdish the carbon. He made it into a chatas, into an oil, and then he used it for personal work. A malitzru perhaps becomes puzzle for carbon tzricha. That's why we need the pasuk ba. that only Egla Arufa is affected by work and not other karbanis. So at this point we have like this. In terms of years, the age factor, by karbanis sometimes it's a factor, depending on what carbon. By paraduma it's not a factor. By Egla Arufa it is. Regarding mum, so of course by other karbanis mum is an issue. Likewise by paraduma. But the word ba of paraduma tells you it's limited to paraduma, as opposed to Egla Arufa where a Baal mum is kosher. What about regarding work? Is that a factor by other karbanis? No. Whether it was done beheter, be'isser, before it became a carbon, after it became a carbon, it doesn't invalidate the carbon. Regarding paraduma and Egla Arufa, whether an oil was placed on the animal or work was done with it, it makes them possible. But there is a difference. Gufa, let's go back to the halacha. Amar b'damarav, hineach alea uda shel sakin. We're speaking about the paraduma. So he placed a little bundle of bags on it. Sula. The paraduma is possible simply by just placing something on it. Ube egla, however, when it comes to the Egla Arufa, you need work. Acha timshich. Unless it actually pulled it, it carried it, walked with it. That's the only way it gets pasuk, because the pasuk says Asher loy mashcha ba'oil. By the paraduma it says Asher loy ala alea oil. Simply placing an oil, a yoke, on the paraduma makes it possible. But by the Egla Arufa, if it did work, if it did something productive, it schlepped something, then we say it's possible. So we have that difference between paraduma and Egla Arufa, according to Ridam and Rav. And the question is, how can we make that distinction? Meisve, here comes a kash. So the pasuk by Egla Arufa speaks about Asher loy ala aleha oil, right? A yoke was not placed on the animal. Only oil. Perhaps only a real yoke creates a problem. Sha'ar avodas minayin. What if the paraduma was involved in other works, other forms of avodah? Amris kavachomer. We can learn it from a kavachomer from Egla Arufa. Uma Egla she'en mum paisel ba. If you find that the Egla Arufa, despite the fact that a mum is not a factor there, but if it gets involved in other forms of work, right? The pasuk says no work can be done with it. It makes it possible. Of course, certainly the paraduma, which has a psul of mum, of course, it will be affected by other forms of work as well. Now, if you have something to say, something to sort of to negate this kal v'chomer, what would that be? We'll see in a minute. But if you would have any way to refute the kal v'chomer, I'll come back with another source. A gzera shava that we had before, nemar kan oil, v'nemar lahalan oil. We have the word oil in both places. Over here by para, asher loy ala aleha oil, and likewise by Egla Arufa, asher loy mashcha ba'oil. And we connect the two contexts. Just like by Egla, other forms of avodah make it possible. Afkan, the same over here by Poro. Other forms of work affected as well. Asks the Gemara, "My imnafshach leimar." Let's just analyze the words of the Brisa. What could you use? What kind of argument could you use to challenge the kal v'chomer from Egla Arufa to Poro? Perhaps you can say, the challenge would be as follows. You can't learn from Egla to Para. Egla is more severe than Para. It's more stringent. Remember, Egla has a time factor, an age factor. Once it gets to a year old, it's possible. As opposed to Paraduma, which is unlimited in terms of age. Inami, another form of argument can be like this. I can disprove your rationale, your way of thinking from karbanis. You're telling me that a paraduma is so sensitive, it's delicate. A mum makes it possible. Of course, avoida does. Well, guess what? I'll disprove that argument from your regular karban. Achatas, an oila. Shemum poisel behen. Mum is certainly a factor there. Ve'ein avoida poiselas behen, but work doesn't do anything to the animal with respect to karbanis. So bottom line, you can't prove anything regarding paraduma as well. And that's why the Brisa returns with a Gzera Shava. Nemar kan oil, v'nemar lahalan oil. Ma lahalan shar avoidos, afkan shar avoidos. So we connect paraduma to egla rufa, just like over there, shar avoidos. Make it possible because it says asher lo yubad bo, asher lo mashcha ba'oil. Likewise, by paraduma, other forms of work affect it as well. End of story. Now, this is going to make it very difficult to understand. The halacha presented a minute ago, that distinction made by Rabbi Yehuda Marav. What did he tell us? He said that by egla rufa, he needs to pull acha timshech, because the pasuk says ashali mashcha ba'oil. Active work makes it possible, but simply placing, the thing on the animal doesn't do anything. As opposed to paraduma, where the pasuk presents it differently. Look at the choice of wording by paraduma. Asher loy Allah, oil. As long as the oil was placed on the para, it was under the yoke, boom, it's possible. So based on that, Rav tells us that simply placing an uda shel sakin, some sort of package on the para, makes it possible. But the thing is like this. There are two separate things here. There is an oil, a yoke. Sure, placing a yoke on the para makes it possible, even without further activity. But placement of a package, that's avoida, that's work. That's a different thing than oil. It's not under a yoke. Right? So how do we know that makes it possible? That we don't know from para. That comes from egla rufa, from Gzera Shava. Other forms of use of work make the egla possible, right? If that's the case, then it has to fit the criteria of egla rufa. You need to have actual work, right? Since the halacha is learned from egla rufa by way of the Gzera Shava, then it has to match, and that's the next kash. Go back to the source of the idea that avoida affects a para. Where's the source? Egla rufa. Just like by egla. You need activity. You need to pull that load. Likewise by para. Anything other than a yoke, any other form of activity and work, is only going to affect it if you have work. If you pull. If you lug that package. Not simply placing it on the animal. That's a kasha on Rav. Tanoi, you're right. There's a machlekes Tanoim in terms of the source of this halacha. According to the previous brisa, you're right. It's learned from egla rufa, and therefore you need mashiach. A para is only possible by avoida if there's active work, if you pulled something, not simply by simply placing it on the animal. A yoke placement, but other forms of work, packages, etc., transporting it, moving it. But there is another school of thought, another track, another Tana, who derives the psul of avoida by paraduma from the parsha paraduma, from in itself, not from egla rufa, and therefore you can fully understand that we compare it to the other factors, the other aspect of paraduma. Just like by a yoke. Allah oil, simply placing the yoke on the animal makes it possible. Likewise, a package as well. Simply placing it on the animal already affects it. As per Rabbi Yehuda Marav's halacha, he was going with this Tana. Tanoi, Dika de Maislam Egla. Some learn the halacha from Egla Rufa, and it would have to compare to Egla Rufa. Some learn it from the actual Parsha of Para. the Sanya. Pasuk says, Asher loy Allah, Allah oil. Oil, only oil, perhaps only a yoke. Sharavodis menayin, other forms of use and work. What about them? Tamalei Asher loy Allah, Allah oil mikol makom. The Pasuk could have said, Asher loy Allah oil aleha, Rashi explains. It could have said oil aleha. Why did it say Allah aleha oil? Mikol makom, to include other forms of work, other packages, other transports. Okay, so we find the halacha within the pasuk of bar aduma, and therefore we compare it to the halacha of a yoke. Allah oil, simply placing it on the animal makes it possible. The same with other packages as well. And this was the source of Rabbi Yehuda Marav's distinction. That when it comes to working with the animal, comes to placing packages on an animal. By Egla Rufa, needs to have transported the package. Ashalei Moshcha. As opposed to Paraduma, simply placing it on the animal makes it possible. So bottom line, oil is not necessarily a yoke. Any package works. Oil. So why does the pasuk stipulate a load if any package does the same thing? Why do we stipulate a yoke? I mean, there's something unique about a yoke. Oil, when a yoke is placed, then it's poisel ben b'shas avoida. Whether he placed it on an animal with the intent to do work with the animal in the future, ben shlei b'shas avoida, whether he just happened to put the yoke down on the animal for the time being to lighten the load off his back, the carrier, that is the person. So he wasn't actually wasn't intending on using the animal for work. A yoke has that magic effect on the para, makes it possible. Sha'aravoides, but other forms of use, other forms of shimush of the para, for instance, like placing a package on the para, then it depends if you're actually trying to use the para. Ain't poistless elo b'shas avoida. It only has an effect if it was meant for using the animal, as opposed to just putting it down for the time being, to take a break. So there is that slight distinction, but otherwise, simply placing it on the animal is sufficient to make it possible. Asks the Gemara, why are you including other packages, other forms of use? Why wouldn't we say like this? The pasuk begins, Allah, nothing was placed on the animal. That would be a klal, a general expression. Any form of use, anything placed on the animal makes it possible. And the pasuk continues with the word oil to specify a yoke. That's a prat, a specific reference. Only an oil makes it possible. Let's apply the formula called klal or prat. You have a general term with a specific term. And we say, Ein b'chlal el b'mashav b'prat. The prat, the specifics, actually elaborating and explaining the klal term. Basically, oil in, only a yoke will have this effect. Midach v'niloi, but nothing else. So why do we include other forms of use? The answer is Asher ribuyahu. The pasuk says Asher lo yalo aleh. Asher is a ribuy. It's inclusive to include other forms of use as well. Says the Gemara, B'tanya nami gav egla ki gavna. We find a very, very similar discussion regarding egla rufa as well. That not only the oil affects the animal, but other forms of use as well. Oil, when the pasuk says Asher le'mashcha ba'oil, ainly oil, perhaps only an oil would have that effect. Sharavoides menayin, other forms of use and work as well. How do we know? Tamar le'ma Asher le'ubad ba mikol makom. Any form of use has the effect on the egla rufa. In kema tamar le'ma oil. So why then does the pasuk mention oil at all? The answer is there is that slight difference between the oil and other forms of use. Oil poisel ben b'shas avoida. So again, by the egla, you need to actually pull to transport this item, right? That's the difference between egla and para. So by the egla rufa, if the oil was placed on the egla and it actually pulled it a bit, it makes it possible whether it was meant for avoida or whether or not, whether he meant to use the animal at that point or just put it on the animal for temporary, temporary rest, temporary break. So the oil has a stronger, more potent effect on the animal. It makes it possible. Sha'aravoides, other forms of use, other packages, etc. Ain't poisles ela b'shas avoida. Even if the animal happened to pull a package, but if it wasn't put there for that purpose, to make use of the animal's services, he was carrying something, it got heavy, so just put it down the animal for a second, without any intent of actually using the animal, no harm was done. So we see that slight distinction between oil and other forms of use, very similar to the brisa by paraduma. Here comes the same kasha as before. Why don't we say klal prat? Let's limit it to only an oil. Asher lo yubad ba klal. Egla rufa is something which was not worked with at all, in any way. Klal, any form of work. Oil, and the pasuk says oil prat. Only an oil makes it possible. Klal prat. You have a general and a specific term. Ein machlal el mashber frat. That tells us that the general term is limited to that specific scenario of using it for carrying a yoke. Oil in only a yoke makes it possible. Other forms of use not. So why are we including other forms of carrying, etc.? So as the Gemara once again, Asher, since it says Asher lo yubad ba, Asher le mashcha ba'oil, that's a ribuyahu to include other forms of use, provided that it actually pulled it on its way. Amar Ravo, ba'i minei Rabbi Yehuda. I asked Rabbi Yehuda as follows. So the Egla Rufa needs to actually pull the yoke, pull the package. How far does it have to pull the package? So he said like this. Mashichas oil become. How far does it have to pull its yoke to make it possible? Amalei kimloi oil. As big as the yoke is. Right? So he has to sort of take it out of its place. He has to walk from here to there. Take the yoke out of its current position. Iboilu, the question is, how are we measuring the yoke? La'arkai, to its length, or la'rachbai, or to its width. Right? So the yoke is sort of braced over the the neck of the back of the head of the animal, right? So it's going like in a semicircle. So let's say it's a tefach wide, but it's quite long. Right? The circle is about 3-4 feet long. So how far does the animal have to walk? 3-4 feet, or just a couple inches? So this Chacham Rav Yaakov responded to them. I personally heard from Rabbi Yehuda himself, who explained to me that the animal has to pull the load, the yoke, for a tefach. That's enough. It's based on the width of the yoke. Why does he have to say it like this? It's a tefach which corresponds to the width of the yoke. Why do you have to elaborate like that? Just say tefach that they heard from Rabbi Yehuda. The shear is a tefach. Just say tefach. Short and to the point. The point here is to teach you that shi'ura de oil tefachavi. What is your standard, width, dimension of an oil? Typically, it's a tefach. Why is this important to know? So that when you buy a yoke from your friend and you haven't really specified its specifications, that fellow is responsible. He must give you an oil which is at least a tefach wide, which is considered standard in the industry. Okay, let's stop for a second and summarize this quite complicated piece of Gemara. Okay, so we have several factors, and we're going to see, whether these things are indeed factors by karbonos, by paraduma, and by egla rufa. Let's start with years, age. The age factor. By karbonos, well, sometimes it is a factor, like by Pesach and Chatas, which must be b'nei shnasan, up to a year old. By other karbonos, it's not really a factor. By paraduma, it's not a factor, as long as the para is either 2 years old or 3 years old, depending on the shita, you say mesachas para. That's it, sky's the limit. Egla rufa is limited by years. It must be within the first year of birth or the second year, depending on the shitas. So para needs to be either within the second year or third year, but then it can be as old as it is. Egla has a deadline up until the first birthday or the second. Regarding mum, certainly a mum is posted by karbonos, by paraduma as well, but it says ba by paraduma to exclude the egla. Mum is not a factor there. What about avoid? Let's skip to avoid. Work. By karbonos, it's not an issue, whether it's beheter or beiser, or even once it became a carbon. We have two psukim, we have the word ba by egla to exclude karbonos. Regarding paraduma and regarding egla, avoida is a factor. Well, by egla it certainly says asher le'mashcha, asher le'ubad ba, asher le'mashcha ba'oil, and we connect paraduma to egla rufa by way of the gzera shava oil. So it's going to be a paisel by para as well. Now, how does this avoida affect the animal? Well, it depends. If it's an oil, it's an actual yoke, so then it has some stringency. So, for instance, by paraduma, asher loy ola oil, simply placing a yoke on the para, that's it. Once it's under the yoke, it's possible to be used for paraduma. As opposed to egla rufa. Over there you need work. We're going to see in a minute the point of egla rufa is to bring an animal which can't do work, which never did work. We're going to see up drasha soon. So perhaps that's the deeper meaning behind this halacha as well. Work, activity, use is what makes the egla puzzle. So pulling that yoke makes it puzzle. Regarding a sack, he put a uda shel sack in some sort of package on the carbon, no problem. On the egla rufa, again, it has to actually pull it and transport it. Regarding the par, that's quite tricky. Well, it depends where you learn it from. We have two shitas. If you learn it locally, from within the parsha paradumas, then we compare it to oil, just like by oil, simply placing it on the animal makes it puzzle. Same thing with other packages. But if it's learned from the gzera shava, from egla, then it has to compare to egla rufa. Until it actually transports, it moves with it, it wouldn't make it puzzle. We find one more difference between oil and other forms of use. Oil is any time, but other forms of use is dafka b'sh'as avoda. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Shol. Mipnei ma. Why is it so? Amra Torah. The Torah instructs us to bring a very specific type of animal for this purpose. Havi egla arufa benachal. Bring the egla, young calf, into this ravine. What's the significance? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the answer is Hashem is telling us, giving us a message to take to heart about the value of life. Yavei davar shloi asa peris. Bring an egla, something which never bore any fruit, didn't have any kids. V'yaref v'makom she'no yiseh peris, and we'll have the arifa done to it in a nachal esan, which doesn't produce any produce. V'yichapar, and that will come and atone, be an antidote, so to speak, al mishalay yinichaloy lasis peris, on a person who was killed before he had a chance to do peris. Asks the Gemara, what do you mean to do peris? My peris, what is peris a reference to? Ilam a peri v'yarivya, he had no chance to have kids. Elamiata, let's say, azokin, v'asaris. This chalal is an older man, he's not having kids anymore, or saris, who can't bear any children. Hachanamid larafina, so arifa is not required in that case, because he's not involved in pruruvu in any case. Ella mitzvahs. Rather, peris means mitzvahs. You're addressing a situation where a person was cut away. His life was cut short, depriving him of the opportunity to do more mitzvahs. We take the egla down to the esan, a hard piece of land. How do we know esan refers to something hard? So this was actually Bilam, right? Esan Meshavecha, you're established in real firm places. So we see Esan means something strong. Rock solid. We have another pasuk, Shimu Harim es Riv Hashem ve'esanim ois de'oretz. So we see Harim are like Esanim, and Harim of course are made of rock. Others explain, Minayin Esan shu yashan. Esan actually refers to something ancient, unused. Shenemar goy Esanhu, goy ma'ilamhu, an ancient nation. So the earth over here is old earth and not fresh earth brought from someplace else. They take the knife and they remove its head from the back. My timer, how do you know from the back? We make Gzera Shava. It says va'arfu, and it says by the chatas oif, the bird chatas, that they are oiref mimul arpai, beneath the back of the head, so basically the back of the neck. So we connect the two halachas, and we do a similar thing here as well. The location of the egla rufa cannot be used for further cultivation. You can't plant, you can't work with it. Tanur Rabban, we have machlekes. Asher lo ye'aved boy v'lo yizarea. Pasuk says that in the Nachal Eson, it's lo ye'aved v'lo yizarea. Question: is that reference to the past, a piece of land which was never cultivated, or is it reference to the future? You're not meant to use the land in the future. Lisha avar divrei Rabbi Ashi. According to Rabbi Ashi, it's a reference to the past. The Nachal Eson must be a place which was never cultivated. But in the future, you can use it, no problem. Rabbi Yonasan Eimer, lahaba. It's referring to the future. You should not be using that piece of land. But in terms of history, it could have been used in the past, no problem. Now, Rava Amar, I made a mistake. Rava Amar, lahaba de kuli amali pligi. In terms of future, all agree. Even Rabbi Yasha agrees, you're not allowed to use that piece of land. The pasuk clearly says, Villa Yizarea should not be used in the future. So all agree, you cannot use it anymore. The question is whether it must be a piece of land which was never cultivated. That's the question. Rabbi Yashi Savar, of course. Miksiv V'loi Ye'aved. Pasuk doesn't say V'loi Ye'aved, it should not be worked in the future. It says V'loi Yizarea, yeah, but V'loi Ye'aved is not said in the pasuk. It says Asher Lo Ye'aved Bay, which means it's a place which was not used yet, indicating past history. For Rabbi Yonasan responds, Miksiv Ashaloi Nevad. Does the pasuk say it wasn't used? It says Ashaloi Ye'aved Bay, referring to the future. For Rabbi Yasha responds, Asher, when it says Asher L'Shavar, Mashma. Asher Lo Ye'aved is a reference to the way it is in the past. It's a place which was not used. For Rabbi Yonasan responds, Asher Ribu Yehu. No, Asher is not changing the tense from future to past. Rather, it's just coming to elaborate, to include other forms of use, as we're going to see in a minute. But of course, it's only a limitation in terms of future, not in terms of past history. So bottom line, all agree, you should not be using this piece of land after the Egla Rufa was brought. In terms of its history, Rabbi Yashi says you must find a place which was never used. Rabbi Yonasan disagrees. What is considered actual land use? Only planting, sowing, etc. But you can use it for combing your flax on that piece of land or chipping your stone. We learn perhaps only actual planting is asur. What about other forms of use? The pasuk says you can't use it at all. Any form of use. If that's the case, you're including everything. Why does the pasuk specify planting? To teach you an example. What's unique about planting? You're actually using the land itself. Of course, likewise, all other forms of forbidden uses only if it conforms to this criteria, using the actual land, as opposed to just using it as a platform. The Yotzas Rikas Pishtan, as opposed to processing your flax, shaping your stones, you're not actually making use of the land itself, and that's mutter. Asks the Gemara Ve'ema, why don't we say like this? Asher lo ye'aved boy, that's a general term, klal, any form of use. V'lo yizarea comes back and gives you specifics. Prat, only planting is asur. We have a klal and a prat. Ein b'chlal of masher prat, only something which is similar to the prat criteria would be asur. Zriyayin, only actual planting. Midachinila, but other forms of use would be mutter, even though using the actual karka itself, like digging, whatever. So why is that included? Asher ribu yehu. This is what we said before. The word asher is inclusive. Asher lo yevid boy, including other forms of use, provided you're actually using the gufa karka itself. So after the arifa, they wash their hands. Zikne ir rechsen sideyen tonarabon. B'chol zikne ir hahi hakrayv melachalal yirchatz yisideyim ala egla rufa benachal. This is the pasuk, right? The local members of the bezin wash their hands by the egla rufa. Shein tamulem harufa. Why does the pasuk have to repeat ha'egla harufa? We already know that the arifa went down to the egla. It's an extra word. Matamulem harufa. What's the point of this word? Al makam arifasa shel egla, that they wash their hands on that exact spot of the arifa. V'amru, they declare, Yadeinu lo yishafchos adam hazeh, ve'inenu lo yro, we're not responsible for this death. Of course. V'chiyal libeinu, also, who would think for a moment shebezdin shevchen damim, that bezdin are killing people? Why did they have to absolve themselves? Ella, rather, what they're saying is lo yibali yadeinu upatrinu b'lei mezonos v'lo yireinu v'nachnu b'lei levoya, lest you think that he came to us and we sent him off without equipping him with seidel aderech, which put him in a desperate situation and prompted him to attack people for food. No, we were unaware of his plight. Likewise, we didn't send him off with that escort, which is so important, which forms that protective shield around him. No, sorry, we didn't know about him. And unfortunately, we've now discovered his situation. Tanya Lavoya, escorting a guest out to the road is so crucial, so important. Bezdin will even force the host to do it. In fact, the reward, the eternal reward for providing that accompaniment to your guest, showing him the way, giving him that emotional fortification. Look, you're so important in my eyes. I wish I could spend more time with you. And that, say this firm, would empower him if eventually he's challenged on the road and his life would be put in danger, as he feels now, look, my life has worth. He boosted his self-confidence and he'll battle his attackers. Others say that by walking him out, the malachim that you're bringing with you will now be transferred to him and watch over him. And the schar for doing so is limitless. Shenemar, we find one time in history when the Yisrael were attacking the city of Beis El, and they were looking for a way in. They were mystified. They couldn't get in there. They noticed this fellow leaving the city. They tell him, listen, please show us the ins and outs. How to get into the city. We promise you we'll do you chesed. Uksiv, and Pasuk says that he complied, and he gave them that assistance. He tipped them off. He hinted to them how to get into the city. He showed them on the way, which is like the halacha of Lavoya. He escorted them. He showed them on the way. And look what happened to him. Look how much schar he got. What chesed did Yisrael do with him? The entire city was killed. But this man and his family was spared. And look what happened to him. This man went along and he traveled to Eretz Achitim. He built up a whole city. He called it Luz, which still exists today. With Tanya, we find that this city had special qualities, special protective powers. Tanya, Hiluz, Shetzevim Batcheles, in that city they died the Tcheles wolf for the tzitzis. Hiluz, Shabbat Sancherev Lebilbula, in that town, Sancherev came but could not dislodge it. Nebuchadnezzar came along, could not destroy it. It was totally protected. Va'af Malach HaMavos Ein Lo Rishus Lavar Ba. This is the famous city of Luz where they only speak truth. The Malach HaMavos has no right to walk in there. Nobody dies. Ella, rather, Zakenim Shabbat, the elders there, which had enough of life, Bizman Shadat and Kotza, they're done living and they want to depart this world for whatever reason. Bizman Shadat and Kotza Alei and Yoitzin Chutz L'Chaima. They can't die in that city. Nobody dies in that city. They must leave the confines of the city, Vein Mesim, and their nature takes over and they pass away. So look, this fellow, what did he do? He just hinted. He gave advice to Bnei Yisrael, and look how far he was rewarded. We can learn from this person. This Knani here. Look, he didn't even say a word. Nor did he walk with his feet. He never even did anything. No extra effort. He just gave a slight hint. We're going to see in a minute what he did. Look what he did for himself and all his descendants. He saved them, he protected them. Outside Kaladuris. Misha Oisa Lavaya Baraglov. Allah has come, of course, if a person actually walks out with his guests, makes that extra effort, of course he is eternally rewarded. So what exactly did this person do if he didn't walk with them? But Maher Lahem, how did he show them where to go? He sort of made a gesture with his mouth and they understood where to go. Rabbi Yehuda, he used his finger to show. Tanya, we have a right to Rabbi Yehuda, that was his finger. Because this Knani simply picked up his finger and showed them, look what he did for himself and all his daughters. A person's on the road, and there's nobody to walk with him. He should engage in Torah learning, even though he's distracted and sidetracked. He should make an extra effort to learn Torah, which will protect him. Torah provides that escort and protection. Because of the 4 steps, Shaliva Pare Lavram Avinu, that Pare did in honor of Avram Avinu. He walked him out a bit when he left Mitzrayim. Because of that, Schar Shenamar Vayitzav of Pare Anoshim. Pare sent some people with him. They escorted him. Because of that, he enslaved Klal Yisrael. Nishtabed bevanav arba me'ashana. Because of that, Klal Yisrael were under his control for 400 years. So 4 Amos. Says the Marsha, Amma is Meya, 400 years. Shanamar Avodim binu oisam, Arba Meyashana. Of course they had to go into Golos, but who says Mitzrayim was going to be in charge because of this Levoya? They got this reward, they got that power. Omar Vidamarav, Kolamalavis Chaveiroi Arba Amos. If a person simply walks 4 Amos with his guest, Be'ir, even in the city, meaning he walks him out of the house 4 Amos, Einoi Nizik, that will provide protection for the guests, protect him from harm en route. Ravina, Alve L'Rava Bar Yitzchak. Ravina walked with Rava Bar Yitzchak, Dalad Amos Be'ir, 4 Amos in the city. Mota L'Yodeh Ezek. In fact, when he got on the road, he encountered something dangerous, V'itzel, and he was protected and saved. Toner Rabbanon. So the minimum is 4 Amos. But if it's a Rav, Harav LaTalmud, if a Rav is walking at his Talmud, he should show him more companionship, more love, more care, Adibur Shalir, until the outskirts of the city, the end of the municipal boundary of the city. Chaver LaChaver, friend to a friend, Atchum Shabbos, until 2,000 Am out of the city. Talmud LaRav, a Talmud is walking at his Rav, Ein LaShir, it's limitless. Keep on going. V'kama, but there must be some sort of limit. Amar Rav Sheish is at Parsa until a Parsa. And that's only a Rabbi Sheini Muvak. It's not his main primary Rebbe, so he gets a discount until a parsa is enough. Aval Rabbi Muvak, but if he's his primary Rebbe, Shleisha Parsois, he has to keep on going for 3 parsa. There was a story of Rav Kahana, who was Alve, who escorted the Rav Simi Bar Ashi a great distance, Mipum Nahara, until Ad Beit Zenisa de Bavel, until they got to that area called Beit Zenisa de Bavel, where many palm trees grew. Kimoto was when they got to that area. Omar Leis, Rav Kahana asks Rav Simi, is this true? Vade Dam Risu. Is it true what people are saying? Hani Tzanisa, the Bavel, these ancient palm trees, Mishnei Adam Arishan Isnu, they're here since the days of Adam Arishan. Is that true? It's pretty astounding. Omar, he responded, not necessarily. At Kartam Nosa, you've reminded me of something which will clarify the matter. When they say Adam Arishan, it means like this. He was involved, but not actually in planting them. Damar Yismar Chanina. What does the pasuk mean? A place where nobody lived and nobody passed through. Isn't that a repetition? If nobody passed through, how can somebody live there? So why the repetition? Ella, rather, is telling you like this. Adam means Adam Harishan. Eretz shegazar aleh Adam Harishan li Yishuv, any place in the world. Hashem took Adam Harishan around to the world, and he pointed to certain specific locations. There, we're going to have a city. There, we're going to have a civilization. So a place where Adam Rishon was geyser on it, that it should be inhabited, it should be civilized. This Yashva, it got inhabited. Eretz Shalei Gazer Alei Adam Rishon. However, a place where Adam Rishon was not geyser on it, Loinus Yashva never developed. So when the pasuk says Eretz Shalei Lo Ever Ba'ish, V'Lo Yashav Adam Sham, it means like this: that if Adam Rishon was not geyser a Yishuv, that explains why Lo Ever Ba'ish, why nobody lives there today. So sure, these palm trees relate back to Adam Rishon, but not because he planted them, because he was geyser that it should be a place for palm trees, and that's why we have palm trees. So he understood the purpose of creation, the secret of every aspect of this world, and what's needed to be done in every location. Another story regarding Lavoya. Rav Mordechai, Alve, he escorted the Ravashi, Me'agrunya, from this place on Grunya, Vad until Beit Kipi, V'amr, some say Ad Beit Dura. Rabbi Yechim Shor Meir, Kol she'inoi melave, umislava, a person fails to escort his guest, or he doesn't allow his host to escort him. That's also no good. Kilo sheifach damim, he's responsible. It's as if he's killing. Why? Because he's not giving his guest his proper protection. And likewise, he's not allowing his host to protect him. So he's responsible for any ramifications. And we find this in the story of Elisha. If it were so that the people of Yericho would have escorted Elisha out of town when he came to fix up the water, which was undrinkable, had they been with him, the whole tragic story would not have happened. Elisha would not have sent those bears after those kids who were taunting him. After Elisha came and remedied the undrinkable water in Yericho, he traveled back up to Beisel. And he's on the road. And you have these youngsters leaving Yericho, and they're taunting him. And telling him, Ali Kirech, go up the bold one, go up, bold one. Leave. We don't need you here. What does that mean? Amrullah, they told him, look, you've just taken away our livelihood. When there was no water in town, we imported water. We were the importers. Alay, leave. Shekrach alenus hamakim. You've bolded the area, meaning you've taken away our parnasa. Now the pasuk calls them na'arim k'tanim. Mai u'na'arim k'tanim. What does that mean? Nar is an adult, bar mitzvah boy. K'tanim means a minor, either or. Amar B'Elazar Shimon na'arim in mitzvahs. They were really youngsters, but we call them na'arim because they were empty. They were devoid of mitzvahs. And k'tanim shoyu mekatnei amana. They were lacking in their trust and faith in Hashem, knowing that Hashem provides parnasa. They were not balei amuna. Right? They expressed their frustration against Elisha that denotes a lack of amunah. So, according to this pshat, perhaps they were really adults. They weren't na'arim oktanim, but we just call them as such because of their behavior and their character. Tana, we have another brisa that really they were na'arim hoyu. They were na'arim, and why would they call them ketanim? Ubizbizu atzman ketanim. They umavaza themselves. They lowered themselves. Taunt Elisha just like little kids. Maskav Rav Yosef. Here's a kasha. What's the problem to begin with? Maybe they were really ketanim. And we call them na'arim because that's where they came from, a town called Na'ara. As the pasuk says, "Va'aram yatzu gedudim, vayish b'Eretz Yisrael." They captured from Eretz Yisrael Na'ara Ketana, a Na'ara Ketana. Again, that seeming contradiction. V'kashlam yad akasha. Is she a Na'ara above Bars Mitzvah, Uktana and Uktana at the same time? How could that be? And the answer was, V'amar Aftas. She was really a Ketana. Demin Na'uran. She came from a place called Na'uran. So perhaps they were Ketana, but Na'arim is just an account of their city. No, over here we can't say that. Because over there by the girl taken captive, it doesn't say where she came from. So it can very well be that she came from a place called Na'uran. Here it says where they came from. They left Yerichai. They were Yerichai, members of the city of Yerichai. They're not coming from Na'ara, so that's why we have a problem with the words Na'arim K'tanim. After they taunted him, Elisha turns back. Vayifan Achrav. He turns behind him. Vayarim, and he sees who the troublemakers were. Vayikalim Shem Hashem, and he cursed him. Mara, what did he notice that prompted the curse? Amarav Ra Mamash. He placed his fierce gaze on them, and that did the trick. The son is, as we learned, whenever the Chacham placed their gaze on somebody in frustration and anger, that generates very, very negative consequences. Death or poverty, which is equated to death. And the Mepharshim explain the Chacham who are engaged in Torah Shel Peh and deep analytical involvement in the intricacies of Torah, they have the Koyach of Midas Hadin, which is related to eyes, the Mepharshim explain. So a sharp gaze can really have devastating effects. Ushmol, Amar Shmuel explains, when it says Ra, he took a look, it means like this. He took a deeper look at them. Ra, Shekulan is Abra, Bahan Iman. B'Yom Kippurim, he noticed that they were all products of an improper Yom Kippur interaction. Their mother became pregnant on Yom Kippur. They were not deserving of further existence. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Amar, B'Loiris Roland Kemarim, he noticed that long hair, this certain hairstyle, which emulated the local Emorim, the Goyim. He saw they were not really on track and deserving of punishment. Rabbi Yechon Amar Rosh, he noticed that they were lacking even a trace of mitzvahs. They were totally empty and devoid of mitzvahs, and that's why he applied the klala. Asks the more True. So they were deserving of great punishment because they taunted him and they were not ones that had any mitzvahs, any schusim. But maybe the children would have schusim and mitzvahs. Maybe the children would have been on the right track. How could you just go and remove them from this world? He contemplated the future as well. He noticed them in their current state and all the future generations. He saw that it wasn't going anywhere good, and therefore he applied the klala, and eventually, as the pasuk says, they were struck down by those bears. Okay, let's do a quick chazara. We learned about the process of Egla Rufa, about the Bezdin declaring look, had we have known, we would have treated him better. But unfortunately, we were not aware of his situation. And we learn about the halachas of mum, of lo oil, when avoida makes it possible, when it doesn't. The Egal Rufa is brought on the Nachal Esan to be mechaper on account of a person whose life was cut short, depriving him of the ability to do further mitzvahs. The place where they do the Arifa is Lo Ya'ovid Lo Yizaream. Regarding the Asid, we understand you can't do further work. Regarding the Avar, Rabbi Yashi says it refers to Avar as well. Rabbi Yonasan disagrees. And of course, all Avodas are also provided, they are Karka related. So you're actually using the Karka itself. We concluded with the greatness of being Malava a guest, the schar of doing so, how it's Matzah Mitzah, and a specific shiurim involved. All the best to you and Atzlacha Rabbah.